Welcome to Cyber Bytes. I'm Edwin Kwan, and today we're replaying an episode from our sister podcast, AppSec Unlocked, where it talks about open source vulnerability management policy and how to take a balanced approach. I hope you find this interesting, and if you like it, don't forget to sign up for AppSec Unlocked wherever you get your podcasts. Let's get right to it. In the early days of vulnerability management, many organizations relied solely on CVSS scoring. I remember I had a strict policy of no new vulnerabilities is to be introduced into production. I didn't want to ship defects downstream, and it required more engineering effort to remediate production defects than to prevent it from being introduced in the first place. For newly discovered vulnerabilities in open source components that are already in production, I had a service level objective, an SLO, for when remediation is expected. It's tied to the CVSS scores, where critical vulnerabilities with a CVSS score of 10 are expected to be remediated immediately. This is a drop tools event. For high vulnerabilities, which are those with a CVSS score greater or equals to 7 and less than 10, I had an SLO expectations of 4 weeks. And the reason why I had this was because back then, the teams were working on 2 weeks iteration, and if a vulnerability was discovered mid-iteration, they could schedule to fix it in the following iteration. And for medium, it was 3 months, and low, we had 6 months. This policy, along with a robust application security program, reduced the vulnerabilities in that organization by 99% in under 2 years. It was great. However, while very effective, it's not always scalable, especially given the exponential increase in discovered vulnerabilities year over year. Today, we're seeing a shift towards a more balanced approach that considered 3 key factors: severity, which is the CVSS score that we spoke about, but also exploitability and potential impact. We've already spoken about CVSS score, so let's take a look at the other 2 factors. Exploitability. Exploitability is crucial. Not all vulnerabilities with the same severity have the same level of exploitability. Vulnerabilities that are actively exploited in the war should take priority. One tool for assessing this is the exploit prediction scoring system, or also known as EPSS. EPSS provides a probability score indicating the likelihood of a vulnerability being exploited within the next 30 days. It's a data-driven machine learning model that uses current threat information and real-world exploit data. The scores are updated daily, and it's based on the latest threat intelligence and exploitation activity observed in the wild. For example, a vulnerability with a high CVSS score but a low EPSS score might be less urgent than one with a medium CVSS score but a high EPSS score. This nuanced approach allows for more effective prioritization for remediation efforts. The next one is the potential impact. The potential impact of a vulnerability exploit is another critical factor. This often relates to the classification of the asset that has the vulnerability. Classifications are usually based on the sensitivity of the workloads the asset manages or stores and the criticality of the application to the business functions. For instance, a vulnerability in a customer-facing e-commerce system might have a higher potential impact than the same vulnerability in an internal, non-critical application. Similarly, vulnerabilities in systems handling sensitive data like personal information or financial records, would typically be considered high impact. However, potential impact shouldn't just be based solely on sensitivity and criticality alone. Other factors, such as whether the system is internet-facing or whether it is a source of truth for the data that it's storing, should also be considered. So, how do we put this all together? Here's a suggested framework. First, ensure all applications are classified based on criticality, sensitivity, and any other factors that are important for your organization. This could be as simple as having a 3-tiered system where all assets are classified as either critical, important, and non-critical. The next is to implement software composition analysis scanning in the build pipeline and for production systems. This ensures that vulnerabilities are caught early in the development process and that existing systems are continually monitored for new vulnerabilities. I've seen some organizations where the continuous scanning is done on the code repository, and I like to call it out that this is actually not a true representation of what's running in production, as what you have in production could be of a different version. The next thing is having tiered policies. For higher classification applications, maintain a strict no new medium or above vulnerabilities policy or something similar within your organization's appetite. For less critical systems, incorporate exploitability considerations. This allows for a more flexible approach based on the importance of the systems. What about existing vulnerabilities? You should apply a similar classification system for newly discovered vulnerabilities in existing open source components. This helps prioritize remediation efforts for vulnerabilities in systems already in production. And lastly, you need to have an exception process. Establish a formal exception process for cases where releasing applications with known vulnerabilities outside of policy is necessary. This might be needed for non-security production incident patches, as an example. An effective open source vulnerability management policy must balance security needs with the realities of modern software development. By considering severity, exploitability, and potential impact, organizations can create a more nuanced and practical approach to managing vulnerabilities. Remember, the goal isn't just to check boxes, but to meaningfully improve your organization's security posture. And as we've seen, this requires a holistic approach that goes beyond simple CVSS scoring. Implementing such a policy may seem daunting, but it's a crucial step in maintaining a robust security posture in today's rapidly evolving threat landscape. Start small, focus on your most critical assets, and gradually expand your program. With time and consistent effort, you'll build a vulnerability management program that not only improves your security, but also aligns with your business goals. That's all for this episode of AppSec Unlocked. This is Edwin Kwan, and until next time, keep securing those apps.